The Rangers' offense stunk last year. It stunk. Who are 5 hitters the Rangers could sign to help them not stink in 2025? Talk about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, I'm looking at 5 different hitters the Rangers could sign this offseason to help bolster an offense that was way down in 2024. Before we get into that, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Now, I start every show as I have the last basically year, almost year to the day of talking about being locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. Unfortunately, after tonight, I may not be able to do that for at least, well, hopefully just another year, but maybe much longer, as the Rangers are very close to no longer being reigning World Series champs. And a big reason for that is that their offense was mediocre as all heck last year. Maybe stunk was a bit too harsh, but compared to what it was in 2023, the offense took an absolute nosedive. There was basically no offensive help added in the offseason. Andrew Knizner was the lone kind of help that the Rangers got in free agency last winter. They signed Travis Jankowski. They brought in Knizner. They also did bring in Jared Walsh because they knew their first baseman was going to be out for a little bit. Eventually, I think they did that in spring training. But basically, there was no offense added after 2023 because the Rangers had one of the best offenses in baseball. They had a great offense that, helped them propel them through the playoffs to the World Series, to their first ever championship. And all they were doing to fortify it in the next year was adding one of the top heralded rookies in all of minor league baseball in Wyatt Langford. They're getting a full year of Evan Carter. And if everybody else was just fine, not even exactly what they were the year before, just the average version of the back of their baseball cards, then the Rangers should have had at least a top 10 offense in 2024. But they didn't. They didn't. From injuries to underperformance, from guys like Jonah Heim underperforming, from the injuries to Josh Young, to the injuries to Evan Carter that really dealt a blow to this team, to the first 4-ish months of the season where Wyatt Langford was just a rookie, not some savior for this offense. He was just a rookie. And even that first month and a half of Corey Seager, where he struggled, which is something we haven't really seen much from him as a member of the Texas Rangers. And also Marcus Semien having a really bad offensive season. So the Rangers seems like they made a mistake last year, not fortifying that offense more, not fortifying the rotation and maybe even the bullpen a little bit more. But it felt like the offense is mostly what let them down. Now, I think a lot of the Rangers' strategy for their offensive improvement next year is going to be ask for bounce back seasons and healthy seasons from Evan Carter, from Josh Young, that next step taken from Wyatt Langford, which I think is fine. Nathaniel Lowe had a fine season. Hopefully Jonah Heim goes back to being at least an average offensive catcher as opposed to a very bad one. Hope Marcus Semien bounces back. But if they don't want to do that, if they're not sure how healthy Evan Carter is going to be next year, if they're not sure exactly what they're going to get from Adolis Garcia, who had a really down year last year, I feel like there's some room to improve on this offense. Maybe just one big or medium-sized bat, I think, could be the move for the Texas Rangers. Now, I'm not including Juan Soto in this episode. I'll do a whole other episode just dedicated to Juan Soto because he is good enough to warrant his own episode. But I'm going through 5 different guys that none of them are really going to break the bank. It might take most of the Rangers' budget. And if the Rangers think that their internal options for pitching and whatever couple of free agent relievers they end up signing are enough, and the offense needs to be prioritized with their budget this offseason, these are 5 guys I think they should target. Number one is a former Ranger great. No, it is not the one that you're all thinking if you listen to this show for many, many years. No, my love for my large adult son, Joseph Nicholas Gallo. That I'm not shoehorning him into this. He's not going to come in and fix this Rangers offense, but it is a former Ranger, a former top Ranger prospect, Jurickson Profar. Now you may be thinking, what the heck? Jurickson Profar has been mediocre for so many years. And why would the Rangers think that guy can fix them? Well, then you weren't paying attention to All-Star Jurickson Profar last season. He signed a one-year deal with San Diego, coming off of a very, very disappointing year with Colorado. He was touted as the best prospect in baseball when he came up with Texas back in 2012 as a 19-year-old, comes up and homers in his first professional at-bat at the major league level. Just absolutely electric stuff. And injuries and ineffectiveness kind of rendered him done in Texas. The Rangers ended up trading him to Oakland. He spent a year there and spent most of his career since then with San Diego outside of that stint in Colorado. But last year, for the first time in his career, made an all-star team, and he was legitimately one of the best hitters in baseball last year. I mean, everything that we loved about Jurickson Profar, almost everything that we loved about Jurickson Profar as a prospect. He's not playing Gold Glove defensive caliber shortstop like we thought, but the offensive ability, that's why the floor was so high on Jurickson Profar. He was a guy who always took fantastic at-bats, had a great mastery of the strike zone, didn't strike out, not exactly light tower power, but solid pop. And he puts together such professional at-bats, such long at-bats, something that this Rangers team did very, very well in 2023, of guys seeing lots of pitches. That's why I love Nathaniel Lowe in the middle of this lineup, towards the top of this lineup, because he's going to see a lot of pitches, get a lot of valuable information for everybody else in the lineup, wear down these starting pitchers, and go to town on them. Last year, Jurickson Profar had 24 home runs and 839 OPS, and then 380 on base percentage. He was the top 12% of the league in terms of not striking out, not chasing, not swinging and missing, and also in walk rate as well. Expected batting average and expected WOBA, both of those in the top 9% of baseball. He was downright excellent. Hitting the ball hard, putting together good at-bats. He's a switch hitter. He hit lefties and righties both very, very well. This is a very lefty-heavy Rangers lineup with not a whole lot of guys who just dominate lefties. Jurickson was better against lefties than righties last year. The Rangers have a starting lineup where they have Jurickson Profar and Wyatt Langford and Josh Jung all in there just to kill lefties against left-handed starting pitchers. Oh boy, that is a very, very dangerous lineup. Now he plays almost exclusively left field as of now. I think he would fit in more as a DH type, but he's projected to sign a 2-year, $25.8 million deal. That's just under $13 million a year for a guy who is such a complete offensive player. Maybe it'll end up being more. I don't know that this projection by Spotrac is the most accurate, but if this is the case for Jurickson Profar, sign me up in the quickest of heartbeats. This is a guy who is such a good member of the clubhouse. He is such a beloved guy around baseball. I mean, you will not find a guy who is more beloved by his teammates than Jurickson Profar. I mean, he is not just a guy, coming home to Texas where he started his career, where there was so much hope for him and honestly a lot of chaos early on. I mean, the Rangers ended up trading away Ian Kinsler to open up a spot for Jurickson Profar for Prince Fielder. That deal didn't work out for Texas. Still, in hindsight, it's easy to second guess that, but Profar was that next big thing, and he did have a great season in Texas before he was traded away. I mean, his last year in Texas with that 20 home run season, playing a super duper ooper utility role of playing shortstop and third base and second and left and right and first base as well. I mean, this guy played just about everywhere. Now he's pretty much just in left field or DH. Played a little bit at first base this year as well, but is coming off of his first All-Star season with a career high 24 home runs, with an 839 OPS and 34% better than league average. This was a down year for offense, and Jurickson Profar was consistent. He was exceptional. He did all the things you love to have at a guy at the top of your order. Maybe if he signs with Texas, maybe that moves Marcus Semien out of a leadoff role. Having a switch hitter like Profar who can work such great at bats, does still have some pop as a leadoff guy, as a kind of DH guy. Maybe Rangers put Evan Carter as their center fielder every day. They put Wyatt Langford in right. Adolis is DHing and Profars in left. Not sure exactly how that would work out defensively, but the bat, oh my goodness, the bat. And for that price, I think if the Rangers are going to allocate dollars to signing a very good hitter to kind of fortify this lineup, to improve on what was a very disappointing offensive season last year, I think Profar has got to be right at the top of your priority list. Coming up, we're going to look at a couple other guys, including one who faced off against the Rangers for a couple of years in Seattle, right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gets you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view a live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Right now, they've got odds already up on the 2025 World Series. The Rangers are tied for the 9th best odds with the Guardians, with the Cubs as well, behind teams like the Yankees, Dodgers, Braves, Phillies, Orioles, Padres, and even the Mets. So go check out all the action on FanDuel.com. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now let's look at the next guy on this list, another outfielder. All of these guys are actually outfielders or DH types. I mean, the Rangers have their infield pretty much solidified. You may have some differing opinions on Nathaniel Lowe, but he is a quality bat at first base. And despite him making significantly more than he did last year, because that's how arbitration works, there's not another first base bat you're going to get for that value on the open market. At third base, you're going to have Josh Young there. He's an all-star. He's very good. The Rangers are not upgrading the middle of their infield. So outfield or DH it is. Next guy is coming off of a solid, fantastic season with Boston. That is Tyler O'Neill. He is heading into his age 30 season, coming off of a 2.5 WAR year where he only played in 113 games, but still mashed 31 home runs. Not quite a career high for him. His career high was back in St. Louis, where he spent the rest of his career. Back in 2021, he had 138 games that year, 34 home runs. He had a 919 OPS that season, a near 850 OPS this season. He's a guy who works a lot of walks, has got a lot of power, has been a Gold Glover in the past a couple of times back in 2020 and in 2021, both with the St. Louis Cardinals. He has spent time mostly in left field, playing a pretty difficult left field out there in Boston. But this guy was absolutely mashing this year in terms of a right-handed bat who is going to be pretty much in his prime. This guy is going to cost a pretty penny, but I think if the Rangers are wanting to shore up their bona fides and get somebody who has been a consistent masher in the big leagues, I mean, for his career, a 469 slugging percentage, a 791 OPS. This guy has been consistently one of the better power hitters in the league. Keeping him healthy is going to be something that is going to be a concern for the Rangers. He has not been particularly healthy over the course of his career, spent some time with a back injury and a shoulder injury, and I believe a leg injury also this year, but still played a decent amount of games. And when he's on the field, this guy is a dangerous bat to have in your lineup. I think that 3 years, $48.7 million is what he's projected to sign. That's just over $16 million a year. That's not the entirety of the Rangers budget. I'm thinking they have, according to Evan Grant, he was projecting them to have about 25-ish million to sign, to spend this offseason. I think that if they sign Tyler O'Neill, that would be a significant chunk of their budget. You can go get him and then maybe 2 relievers, and then you're just really hoping that everybody that is in the rotation currently stays healthy and stays effective. We'll see if that is a winning strategy, but I think O'Neill at $16.2 million a year, if you're going to go get a big bat, O'Neill has definitely got to be on that list. Next guy on this list is a former Ray. No, he is not the brother of former Ray Nathaniel Lowe. It is Brandon Lowe. Now, he is not for sure a free agent. We don't know at this point if he is going to be a free agent or not. He's got a $10.5 million club option for next season with the Rays and an $11.5 million club option the year after that. It would be a $1 million buyout for Tampa Bay. And I don't know if they're going to pick that up. He has been a solid player, but in terms of just the Rays and how they do things, $10 million for a player, if they're spending 10 mil or more on a player, then it's going to be a very good player. Maybe they pick up that option and then decide to trade him. But if they decide to just not pick up that option, he is projected to sign a 4-year, $80.4 million deal. That's $20.1 million in average annual value. He is going to be 30 years old. He's mostly played second base. He's finished top 10 in MVP voting twice, once in 2022, or once in 2020, and then once in 2021. He has been a consistent masher of the baseball, a career high 39 home runs back in 21 as a 26-year-old with the Rays, spent his entire career there. He's got a career OPS north of 800, a career on base of 330. He has mostly played second base, like I said, but he has also spent a decent chunk of time in the outfield, whether it's left field, whether it's in right field, not too much time, not any time actually in center field, couple games at first base because the Rays just put anybody anywhere. Actually, only 50 games in the outfield, but he's definitely got an aptitude for it. He has been solid defensively. He's a lefty who hits for a lot of power and who's got decent at bats against lefties as well. Not stunning numbers, but OPS north of 700 with lefties on lefties. That is not something you see all that often. Coming off of a year where he only had 425 plate appearances, but a 784 OPS, over 20 home runs each of the past 2 seasons. He's just been consistently pretty darn good. I don't know if consistently pretty darn good is enough for the Rays to pick up that option and then try and trade him. I'm sure if they did that some team would make a trade for him. But at $20 million a year, this is the most expensive guy. Second most expensive guy I have on this list of 5 guys. But I think that Brandon Lowe could be a real asset for the Rangers if they decide, if the Rays decide to decline that option and he does elect free agency. Definitely one that I will keep an eye on. I think he could be really interesting because there's not a whole lot of bats that super inspire me in terms of this free agent class. But one of the bats that does is Joc Pederson, number 4 guy on my list. He's heading into his age 33 season. He has been in the big leagues for quite some time, since 2014 with the Dodgers. Only 2 All-Star appearances in his career. I don't know how he wasn't an All-Star this year, because he was quite possibly one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball this year. 132 games with the Arizona Diamondbacks, a 908 OPS this season. 23 bombs, a 515 slugging percentage, a on base is just 7 points shy of 400. He was absolutely phenomenal this season. Hit well against lefties and righties. For his career, he has not been a good hitter against lefties. Maybe they figured out something this year. Didn't face all that many lefties. 42 plate appearances against lefties versus just north of 400 against righties. But this guy had a 750 OPS against those lefties this year, and he just consistently mashed. He would be a DH only if the Rangers signed him, but he's projected to sign a 2-year, $29.4 million a year deal, average annual value just under $15 million a year. That is well within the Rangers' budget. He's got an option for this season at $14 million. It's a mutual option. I don't think he's taken that, especially if he could get 30 mil total in free agency. He's coming off of one of the better seasons of his career, and he's had some other seasons where he's had an OPS north of 850. This year at 908. That is a career high OPS for this guy. Now, granted, Arizona is a little bit of a hitter-friendly ballpark, but still, his OPS plus in terms of how he stacks up with league average when you're factoring in those park factors, it's 151. He was 51% better than the average hitter in baseball this year. This is a down year for offense in general, and he had an OPS north of 900 at 32 years old. This has been one of the better hitters in baseball for quite some time. He's been pretty darn consistent. He's been above a league average hitter every season, pretty much for his whole career. He's had 4 seasons. One of those was 2020, one of those was 2021, and then he had a 96 OPS plus season in 2017. But other than that, he's been consistently 10, 12, 20, 50% better than league average. I think at, 15 million a year. If the Rangers are going to use a significant chunk of their cash for a hitter, which part of me thinks they should do, part of me is worried that, they shouldn't do that, because maybe you can bank on a healthy season from Evan Carter. Maybe you can bank on a healthy season, a bounce back season from Adolis Garcia. But the Rangers could just straight up use more pop in this lineup. And if they're going to go get more pop, Joc Pederson would be a fantastic signing at that price. Coming up, we're looking at a hitter who is in the World Series, who is a free agent after this year. And no, it's not Juan Soto, but this guy might be a good signing, just as good a signing per dollar as Juan Soto. Right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to get money on the real money on sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars awarded in winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you do is pick more or less on at least 2 to 6 players' stat projections with a shot at win up to 100 times your cash. You run your game all season long on PrizePicks. It is the best way to get in the action on sports in more than 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Now, there's one final guy on this list. He is an outfielder in the World Series for the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is Teoscar Hernandez. Heading into his age 32 season, Hernandez signed a 1-year deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Felt kind of superfluous. Like, okay, do they really need a Teoscar Hernandez? They already have, 3 MVPs in their lineup. Surely they don't need Hernandez. And throughout the year, Hernandez showed them, yeah, you do need me. At points, he was their best hitter this year. Well, a little bit. Not very often, because they have Shohei Ohtani, and then Mookie Betts was, for the first month of the season, Mookie was the best hitter on earth, and then Shohei put up a 50-50 season. But giving them some depth in the middle to upper part of their lineup, Hernandez is coming off of a 4.3 WAR season, 33 home runs, an 840 OPS, an OPS plus of 137. He has been an all-star twice in his career. He has been a Silver Slugger twice in his career. He has also won a home run derby. I believe he will almost certainly be, I feel pretty confident he's going to win a Silver Slugger this year. In terms of the left fielders, I can't think of any left fielder off the top of my head. Actually, maybe it'll be between him and Profar for that left field Silver Slugger. Both those guys had fantastic seasons, but Hernandez has been a guy who consistently puts up home runs. I mean, his 162 game average for home runs in a season for his career is 32. Got 192 homers in 9 seasons. So he has been a guy who can put the ball over the fence, but he has been very, very streaky, a guy who strikes out quite a bit, does not walk quite as much as you would like for a guy who is, a not quite DH only type, but he's not a great left fielder. He's fine. He had a really nice assist at home, a perfect throw to gun out the slowest man in baseball, Giancarlo Stanton. But he hits the absolute crap out of the baseball. He's got great bat speed. The walk rate has been about average this year, so better than it has been in the past. Still, the strikeout rate, bottom 10 in baseball. Swing and miss rate, bottom 7% of baseball. But he's got the bat speed. He's got the barrel percentage. He's got all those things that you want in a hitter. His on base for his career was 320. This year it was just 1 point shy of 340. Slugged over 500. This was just a very good and consistent hitter, which the Dodgers really needed. And by the way, he's more athletic than you think. He's in the 82nd percentile of sprint speed, so a lot faster than I was thinking before I went and did some research heading into this. Hernandez is projected to sign a 3-year, $71.3 million deal that is just shy of $24 million a year. That might be the Rangers' entire budget. If they're going to get one hitter to solve all of their problems this offseason, maybe that's Hernandez. I don't know. I think the Rangers might end up being priced out of him, especially if the Dodgers almost certainly wrap up this World Series and win it. I am pretty sure they're going to want Teoscar Hernandez back, or they're going to be too busy flaunting the chase for that other guy that's playing right field for the Yankees right now, Juan Soto. You may have heard of him. The Dodgers are going to be pretty active on him. And of course, they probably have the money to sign both those guys and go into the super duper uber luxury tax, to have a $400 million payroll and just make all the rest of us look very broke. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe they decide, Hernandez, great one season. Thanks for helping us get the ring. Go get your bag somewhere else. Hernandez has been one of those consistent power hitters. It's something the Rangers offense needs. They need more thump in this lineup. Brandon Lowe is a very, very good bat, and he's talked about how he wants to hit more home runs. He's like, I need to hit more home runs. I'm a first baseman. I need to put that ball over the fence. Josh Smith was fantastic for the first half of this season, but not having Josh Young in that lineup, who has significantly more thump in that bat than Josh Smith, it hurt the Rangers. I mean, Jonah Heim was not able to put the ball over the fence like he had in years past. Seager was still putting up good home run numbers, and despite the massive downturn from Adolis Garcia's offense, he was still putting the ball over the fence at a decent rate. But in terms of Wyatt Langford, he wasn't really hitting the ball over the fence for the first 4 months this season. Evan Carter, well, he only played for 40 games. He had 5 home runs in that span. It was more than you thought in that first month, and then the 2 weeks that he played after that. He could be a huge big boost for this offense. There's significant reason for the Rangers to be hopeful in just internal bounce back for this offense to get back closer to where they were in 2023 to an elite offense than where they were in 2024. Now, maybe some of those guys just did have career years popped off and are never going to be like that again. I don't think that's the case for all of them. I think Lowe has definitely got more in his bat. I think that he is coming off of a season. This is the first time he ever was hurt in his baseball career. I mean, from high school to college to the pros, this is the first time he ever missed a significant portion of the season. People forget about that oblique injury, but I think that really hurt him in terms of sapping his power, and also just there was less power around baseball this year. I'm a big believer in Adolis Garcia. I think this was obviously a disastrous year. I think he was pushing a lot on himself to, fix this offense, and him not being what he was in 2023 really hurt this offense. But Marcus Semien also had a really bad offensive season for what the Rangers are expecting. And in terms of, guys that they could add who will be better than the overall collective improvement, I don't know how many guys are out there. I mean, maybe you sign Joc Pederson. You put him as a 900 OPS DH. I think that really helps this offense. I think my ideal version of this offense next year would be Evan in left. You put Wyatt in center field. You put Adolis Garcia in right field or DHing, probably right field. You don't have your center field offensive black hole, which is kind of what Leote was this year. I think he's got potential to bounce back and be closer to a league average hitter, where if that's the case, you have your league average hitter and great defensive center fielder in center. You move Wyatt to right field, then you put Adolis Garcia at DH, and that's still a decent lineup. But if you could have your guy who's probably going to be the Rangers' second best hitter next year, I'm hoping, maybe not expecting, but hoping that Wyatt Langford can get to a spot where maybe he's not putting up, September 996 OPS for an entire season, but being that all-star caliber hitter, being, an elite hitter, like I think he can be, putting together those quality at-bats and hitting for power for the entirety of the season, not just 1 month. I think that could be a huge, huge boost to this lineup. But ideally, I think the Rangers should sign someone at DH. I don't think it should take the vast bulk of their cash. I think that, a per dollar value, the biggest upgrade, Profar and Pederson, I think would be huge, huge upgrades. If you do go sign O'Neill, then you got to be really, really confident that you can keep him healthy, that he can keep producing. But I like the overall, complete kind of at bats that Profar works, having a switch hitter who is, very good against lefties and righties who can provide that elite on base skill. I mean, Joc Pederson provides that too, but he's another lefty who's not great against lefties. And so I think of all of these guys, if the Rangers could sign just one of them, signing Profar would be huge, not just because I love Jurickson Profar, but I think if he can be, maybe he's not going to repeat what he did last year, but if he can be 80-90% of that, that would be such a massive upgrade to this offense and to get it back to where it was, what made it so successful in 23, having a bunch of guys who can do a bunch of different things. I mean, you had guys like Corey Seager and Marcus Semien who don't walk at a huge rate, a little bit more aggressive on first pitches, but do damage on those pitches. You had guys like Lowe, you had guys like Evan Carter who can work deep counts, who can see lots of pitches and, make things easier on everybody else in the lineup, make those starting pitchers have to work really hard. And even if they, ground out on a 7, 8, 10 pitch at bat, they're still making those starters work hard and having that balance of guys who can do different things well, bring different things to this lineup, guys who can succeed against all types of pitchers. That's why I really love Jurickson Profar, what he did this year. He hasn't done that before in the big leagues. He has not done that before. That's the elephant in the room. And by signing him to a 2-year deal, you're taking a little bit of that risk. You're projecting him to maybe not be an all-star. I mean, he's got a 726 career OPS, and he's spent 11 years in the big leagues. He's been in the big leagues for a while. This was his breakout season. I don't know exactly what it was. He's had other pretty good offensive seasons, like in 2020, still a shortened season, a 771 OPS that year. In 2018, his last year in Texas, a 793 OPS. I mean, he showed 20 home run pop both of those years. He showed actually just that year, and then also his first year at Oakland. But I think that Profar can continue to be this. I think he's finally found that next level. And if they don't believe that he can be that, then I think a Joc Pederson signing could be absolutely super worth that money if the Rangers want to go be aggressive. And the Rangers have Chris Young, who is a great persuader, who is a great convincer of free agents to sign with Texas. Maybe Profar will just say, hey, I really like it in San Diego. Maybe San Diego will say, hey, we're trying to cut payroll. The fact that Profar signed a 1-year, $1 million deal and then put up those numbers, I mean, that is one of the best free agent signings we've seen per dollar in a long freaking time. I mean, right up there with probably a little bit better than Kirby Yates of $4.5 million for that kind of production. Profar at $1 million, getting a 4-win position player. That is a 3.5-win position player. That is just spectacular stuff. But I think of those guys, Pederson and Profar are my ideal targets. Maybe the Rangers look at some of those other guys. I didn't really include Santander. That contract would scare me. A guy who's already basically DH. There's not a whole lot of hitters elsewhere on the market besides Juan Soto that really do much for me. But I think these are 5 definitely good options the Raiders could pursue and maybe should pursue if they're trying to improve that offense in 2025. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.